Everybody, this is Jay Young with the Jay Young Show, and I've got Jordan. Jordan, say hello. My beautiful co-host today, and we're going to talk about a few different things. I want to go into some entrepreneurship with Jordan. She wanted to learn, and not that I'm the expert, but I read a lot. So therefore, I may be able to help guide her. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about King Operating. We're going to talk about Fund 3. We're going to talk about voting. I voted today. You can see this my
Congratulations.
And there wasn't hardly any lines.
No, just kidding. Don't say.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that we did, because my wife and I, Michelle, we kept wondering, hey, when are we going to vote? When are we going to vote? Mm-hmm. And then I was coming to the podcast today, and I was like, hey, I was going to take her to the office, and I thought, okay, I'll just run by the place to see. And they have a lot of voting booths today. They have a lot more than I've ever seen at this one spot at Hillcrest and Belline in Dallas. And so there was no line, and I thought, man, let's just go through. It took literally 5 minutes to start.
Really?
10 minutes to vote, and man, it was really, really a good experience. I'm glad I did. I voted for, I'm not going to tell you. Should I tell you I voted for?
No, you did. I was about to say, Jay, don't you do that. Don't you do that. That's like.
I know. Even though Prestonwood, my good friend Jack Graham, last Monday, I was texting Pastor Graham about something, and he was with the president. He was praying over President Trump. I know.
Oh my gosh!
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So good friend there, and I'm gonna probably see him today at lunch, and I'll ask him about what's going on or how things went. And
I've always been curious whenever you're in that position, one, like to get to that positioning of being like, you are now the nominee for the presidency, then the pressures that come with that. And, I'm sure that there are, so I go to this farmer's market every Saturday here in Houston, and they have the voting, it matters, and they have this graphic that's like a whole sea of people that say, oh, I didn't vote because I don't matter, it doesn't matter, right? And then it shows like the impact of that, right? Where yes, it actually does matter, but I do think that there is this hesitancy with some people in my generation and even younger, maybe Gen Z, that are just, hesitant because it almost feels like that of a game show. Like it feels so like white hat, black hat, right and wrong. It's all or nothing. And like that it doesn't seem like logical in my head. It's something that I struggle with because you can only do the best with what you have. And when you're looking at both of these candidates and then you're looking at how you're wanting to go forward, I don't know. Is that something that you struggle with too whenever you're making those decisions? Oh. It does feel a little game showy, doesn't it?
The game show is a good the Gong Show. I think the presidential election this year is like the Gong Show, because you have two guys, two candidates that are, there's so much controversy. I mean,
right.
And they have to be out there. But yeah, you're right. The pressures that you have to have as a candidate, you have to talk all the time. Look at Kamala, things that she said. Think about strategery with, President George W. Bush. There's so many different things that have happened. And you have to be on 24/7, and you're in 5 different cities or 10. It's like
right.
The pressure. Why
you're
Donald
going on
Trump?
Tour.
Why Donald Trump would want to be president? Man, that just really surprised me. If it's the ego or, if it's whatever it is, man, it's a lot. But yeah, you're right, and it's hard to think about. Normally in an election, you really don't have there's really not a big question on who you're going to vote for. It's like, okay, yeah, hey, if you're a Republican, you vote Republican, but you don't feel bad about it. Or if you're a Democrat, right. You vote Democrat, and you're like, I'm going to vote Democrat. I feel okay about the candidate. Or you just walk in and go, I like Ted Cruz, or I like Donald Trump, or Kamala Harris.
Well, and again, it goes off of personality in that sense versus what are the policies that these people stand for. And the other thing that I think is so convoluted is whenever you're voting for bills to be passed, there's just so much in the fine writing that people I don't think take the time to really read and go through. And the other thing is like, it feels so, I'm struggling with it because it just kind of feels, all of it just feels a little slimy. It just feels like somebody's trying to get rich somewhere and putting something into something that it doesn't really, I don't know. I struggle with it. And I don't know if you watching, if you struggle with this as well. If you do, feel free to comment below. But it's definitely something that I go back and forth with because, and I have for years. I mean, it's never been something that I think has been really simple, but I think that in an effort to get the most votes possible, things have been simplified. And the other thing, and I'll leave it here and I'll leave it with this so that I can get off of this little monologue thing that's happening, but it does feel like the same sound bites are used for each candidate every time they come up. It's always talking about the same things over and over again, you know, abortion, the border, and taxes, and it seems to be a recurring thing of like we're gonna tax all the rich people, and I don't know. It does feel like those sound bites are something that just keeps happening no matter what candidate it is. Am I wrong? Am I totally off? Am I totally crazy for saying that?
You're right, but what I really think, and I think I mentioned on the show before, you know, do you vote with your heart or do you vote with your pocketbook? I mean, is there emotions? Should there be emotions when you're talking about, you know, our democracy, the greatest country in the world, and are we going to really sit here and go, okay, yeah, well, I like this person. I think, you know, I think Donald Trump's a scumbag, or he's a felon, or he's a garbage man, or whatever you think about him, you know, and think, okay, well, I'm not going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for. Is that the best thing for our? Is that the best thing? For, like Mark Cuban said, you know, I had dinner with him. I've said this on the show before, but I had dinner with him on an election night a few elections ago, and he said I voted for Obama because it's the best thing for my business. Obamacare, it's not necessarily great, but he says, I know I can handle it. I know I can adjust if I need to, and I can move forward my business, and it's the best thing for my business. So therefore, there's a businessman, I mean, who, by the way, is worth billions of dollars, and you know, saying... Okay,
but here's a question. How does he feel about the narrative of him getting taxed more? Or are there just loopholes that he can use so that even if these new rules are implemented, that he actually doesn't actually have to abide by them?
I don't know that for sure. I know that when he sold...
I know he's your friend, so you don't have to say too much, but I am curious.
He sold his interest in the Mavericks not long ago, and he said, I'm writing my check to the government for $300 million or whatever, $200 million, whatever it was. And he said, I'm happy to write my check to the government for this. And I mean, sure, he just got $2 billion or whatever it was. I mean, why?
Right.
I would too. Hey, give me $2 billion, I'll write a check to the government for $200 million. Done deal. End of story. You'll never hear from me again. But he's different in that sense. But I know it's really different. Do you vote for your heart, or do you vote for with the business sense of, hey, you know what? President Trump will stand on the neck of the Iranians or you know, whatever, and make sure that oil prices don't go down. Or it's like, you know, during the Trump, I mean, Trump for the oil business, for us, was not good necessarily because he drill, baby, drill, yes, but for an explorer, somebody that drills for oil and gas, we want to drill when it's low and then reap the rewards as oil prices go up. And it did exactly the opposite last time because he was, you know, drilling so much oil that the prices went down. And so that wasn't good necessarily for a lot of people. Hey, during Kamala Harris, man, I'll tell you what, prices are likely to go down because of, prices are likely to go up with Harris because she's going to have that opinion of no fracking and she can't get into Texas and stop things there. But the government's done an incredible job in Wyoming or Colorado, California. these other states from allowing or preventing us from fracking in those other states.
Yeah.
Whether it's the federal government or it's the federal government having meetings with the state or county to make sure that, hey, nobody drills. So a different deal.
Yeah.
Different deal.
Yeah, but I am happy that we have had a female candidate again.
Yeah.
Because what we had Hillary, and maybe I just don't really remember, but I don't really remember there being another, female candidate that was in a position like Kamala or Hillary was in, unless I'm
It's a good
wrong
question.
on
I
that.
can't think of one right now either, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But here, and as we've said before on the show, do your research, feel confident in your decision. Don't be swayed by the celebrities and their endorsements or this, villainizing of one person or the other. Do your own research, understand your choices, and make the best choice that you can with the information that you have. And I think that that's all that can be asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Exactly right. Elon Musk or
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey or whoever it is. I mean, there's plenty
And
of
don't
influence.
bring it up in Thanksgiving or Christmas time.
Exactly. Hey, I want to talk about something, and then I want to get into what you want to talk about. I want to talk about something I'm really excited about with King Operating and what we're doing right now. We're getting ready to get some rigs running and drill some projects in Texas, and we should have trying to get 4 different areas in our business. The way we scale our returns to our clients is the 4 R's. It's in my book, The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing: repeatability, returns, reserves, but running room. And running room of places where people can drill, and you have this, it's going to cost X, and you're going to get these returns over time. And also at the commodity price, which is if oil's at 70 or gas is at 3, what's the return? So that's what we're doing now, and we're putting together our Fund 3. I'm really excited about that, and I know that this is not the King Operating Show. This is the Jordan Soto Show.
No, but I think it's important because, Jay, that's what you run. That's your business. And the whole point of this show is entrepreneurship. It's giving people the ins and outs. And part of the ins and outs of being an entrepreneur is promoting your business, and doing so in a way that's authentic and genuine, right? Like if you didn't believe in it, I don't know that you would be running it. So I appreciate you sharing it and letting us know, because it's something that I really want. I am eager to build the foundation of my financial stability to then invest in things like what you have to offer.
Right. No, it's great, and that's exactly right. I mean, this is about entrepreneurs. I want to make sure that, hey, I've got a lot of knowledge. I've got a lot of, I've done oil and gas all my life, pretty much. I was a stockbroker from 85 to 90, and then 90, I've got the oil business, and I've been there ever since. Started first business in 95, and we do funds once a year. So, like, we raised a $100 million fund this year. That's what our goal is now. We go into 4 different areas and prove up one of those 4 areas, and that's a really good return for clients, just 1 out of 4. So if we did 2, 3, 4 of them, the returns would be ridiculous. But just showing one good area, and so like right now we're looking at a property. We have our big property that we've seen on the show, and the oil and gas. What was that? The oil and gas conference summit or whatever it was. Remember that when
the Oil and Gas Investment Summit.
Summit. We did that, and that was D. Patterson on that property up in north up in North Amarillo, by Amarillo. That's a really great project. Well, if that deal works, I mean, that's like a 2 to 3 to 1 return to clients. Great. Or we've got one.
I love that.
Sprayberry wells, or we've got some other projects that we're working on that we're looking at. So another good deal for clients. But hey, you know what? It takes a lot to do what we do, and it takes a lot of learning. So I'm grateful that you're asking me, questions about this. I would say this: it's always great to find a mentor.
Yeah.
I did not have a mentor in this business except for the last business that I worked. And I worked there 5 years, but it really wasn't an oil and gas company where you're looking to build reserves and cash flow and running room. Our goals at King Operating are so different than an average, say, promoter or somebody promoting out oil and gas projects. That's not what my goal is. We need the cash to come in to drill the wells and do all the things necessary, and we invest in it too. But I'm also saying that we want to make sure that we learn, and that's what I've done. Is learn from oil and gas companies what's the most important. How do you build an oil and gas company, and how do we do this? So I've kind of caught on to some mentors, and that's what I really recommend people doing. And so Jordan wants to talk about, she wants to be an entrepreneur in real estate, right? In real estate. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'll tell you what I'm going to do next year, or I'm going to tell you tell me about what you want to do. Yeah.
Well, I was really excited whenever you had come to me and you said, I have this amazing idea. I want to start this podcast and I want to help people understand what it means to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, yes, that is like in my bones. It's in my being. I always have like these big ideas and I want to I grew up very middle class, and I would say upper middle class. Like, we were able to buy houses with pools and stuff like that, but it wasn't like these grandiose houses and, these really nice cars. We were always like making sure that we were saving money and then buying things that we could pay off immediately and then saving as much as we could. But I never learned anything about investing in the stock market. Definitely never anything about crypto, but crypto is pretty new, right? Or like investing in portfolios. My grandparents had set up a mutual fund account for me whenever I was a baby. And, my great grandmother gave me like a $50 bond every birthday. And so there was like slow building of the what I would call financial security and the financial foundation for where I'm at now. And I was really, really blessed because my parents gifted me college, and so I didn't have to worry about my college debt or student loans or anything like that, which I'm so thankful for. I couldn't even, thank you, Mom, thank you, Dad. But now I'm in this position where I'm like, okay, I've invested in the stock market outside of my mutual fund, and I have some crypto, but all of these things are not really tangible. And with what we've seen with inflation and even though I was in 8th grade whenever 2008 happened, I remember the panic that happened there with the banking system. And so for me, I'm like, okay, and Jay, if I'm totally off here, like, please hold me accountable. But I thought, okay, and also Peaky Blinders played a bit of role in this because I love that show. But I was like, I want to build an empire. I want to get tangible things that I can invest in, that I like own and have, that are outside of like digital dollars. And so I decided, okay, I'm in a position now, thanks to the company I'm working with and for, which is Newton Vision Corporation, where I have the standing now to then invest in property. So bought a multifamily home complex. The main property is separate from the back 2 units. Mm-hmm. And I actually just launched my AirBNB in one of the units, and I'm renovating the other unit to AirBNB that out as well. And thus far, it's been pretty awesome.
Good.
And I'm not endorsed by Airbnb, so.
Yeah. They need to be a sponsor. But anyway, so tell me about that. What is it that you wanted? Do you have a long-term goal right now, or is it just a goal for this property? Why'd you pick this property and Airbnb?
Okay, so picked this property because it was it's super close to the Med Center in Houston. It's 5 minutes from the Med Center. It's 5 minutes from NRG, which is the stadium. It's 5 minutes from the Astrodome. It's 5 minutes, 10 minutes to Montrose area. So it's like literally in such a central location and in the museum district, which is where I loved being. So I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer. It's completely renovated. I don't have to worry about the plumbing, the electrical, the roof is brand new, the flooring's been redone, all of the appliances are new, everything was new, right? So that was a really big relief to be able to buy a property that was then renovated. So I didn't have to put any of that money into that, because I used to think that flippers, fixer-upper homes were the bee's knees and that was the place to go. It's so expensive to do that. You know, roofs are $12,000, AC units, you know, what is that, like $2,000 to $5,000. Flooring alone, plumbing, if there's any mold or termite damage or anything like that, that's a very expensive. You have to have capital in order to get started there. So that's why I chose this property, was because it was already ready to go and ready to rock, and I just needed to paint some things and then.
So how did you find it and how did you buy it?
I found it through, okay, so this is a crazy story. I was meeting with a friend of mine and she goes, oh, I have a friend who just wants, you know, like to set up her business and branding and like color scheme and things like that, but like brand guidelines. And I was like, oh yeah, I would love to meet her and talk with her about that. And we got to talking. She ends up being a realtor. So while I was helping her like kind of establish herself in branding, she was like, yeah, I come from multi-generational wealth through real estate. And her grandfather had made some really great purchases in Seattle, and her name is Kirsten San Augustine. So if you were looking for a realtor in the Houston area, she is the best. She works with investors. She works with first-time home buyers. She specializes in self-employed buyers, so which is important because it's a totally different approach. But with Airbnb, wanting to do that I was looking at the numbers and I was crunching them. As number crunching for me, Jay, you know, it's not a thing. So I was like, okay, let's break this down in the most simple math possible. And by the way, like, I am so new to entrepreneurship. I want to be Jay when I grow up. Like, I think that what you are doing, Jay, is so awesome. And you are I consider you one of my mentors, which is partially why I love doing this show.
Oh, great.
But I was crunching the numbers and I was looking at the long term.
I've also made a lot of mistakes too. I'll have to say that. So learn from people that have made a lot of mistakes. Your mentor.
Yes.
Yeah. If you go to a mentor and you go, hey, have you ever made any mistakes? And they say no, then keep running. Go ask.
Yes.
Go ask somebody else. Yeah. Man, I can go into
So
real estate.
long-term rental, $1,500. Airbnb, if I broke that down, that would be $45 a night, right? With Airbnb, that's $55. I set it to smart pricing, so my lowest cap is $55. My highest is $205. So it uses an algorithm to then look at the listings around the area to then know what price point it needs to be at around certain periods of time to then allocate that amount. And so in 2 weeks, we made $1,000, and that was as soon as the listing went live, which was incredible because there's always this nerve-wracking, like, you know, Jay, whenever you're like starting in an investment and you're like, okay, I think this is going to work. And then there's this pause, and I call it the pregnant pause, where it's just a little bit longer than you think it should be. And you're like, is this going to work?
Well, there's so many different things. When you say you made $1,000, I mean, that's awesome. But I'm just like, okay,
before taxes.
so
And
what's that?
before taxes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Before taxes. So we made $1,000
before expenses,
we have
before
to take
taxes
those
and all that
out.
stuff. So I'm trying to think. Okay, so how much money do you need to make every month to make all your payments? If you insurance, taxes, your principal, interest, and all that stuff, how much money do you need to make every month?
Well, my mortgage is quite high right now, so
Not your mortgage. I'm talking about the mortgage for this property. Oh, are you talking about? You're talking about you have a property now, and you live in the front, and there's 2 units in the back that you can. Okay, so now you're in your place, Okay, so you have your place taken care of. So you're not really thinking about this as a standalone. It's got its own address, and it's okay. You're thinking of this just as hey, I'm gonna rent this thing out as much as possible and try to make as much money as possible. So you're not really okay. So it's a little different. It's a little different from
right now
a standalone.
Yeah, because I'm wanting to subsidize the mortgage so that I can build the equity, so that I can take the equity and then put that into more multifamily home complexes, so that I can rent those out and then keep it going.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you want to build that, and then use that equity to go use that as to go buy another property, and by the time you're my age, you'll have a lot by the time you're my age. No, you should be done by the time. Hey, there you go. There you go. Good. So this way you have a mortgage, you have a house, you're just looking for income, and so that's good. That's a very good thing to know, because I kept thinking about all the gross revenues, and I'm like, okay, well, you got taxes, you got insurance, you have your principal and interest, but you're really not looking at that portion. You're just really looking at how much money can I generate? What's the most amount of money I can generate with these 2 units in the back that I can Airbnb, right?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And the biggest point is, okay, how can I subsidize the mortgage so that I can put the other money away, so that I have not only the equity, but then my savings is able to be built up. And I think as a young entrepreneur, that is a good place to start. But I will say it is, to get into a property, you have to have capital. And so that is, that's tough. So if you can save as much as you can, what would your advice be there, Jay, if you're trying to build capital? Because I would say that if I was to be investing in more property, I think that this is a good place to kind of start and to get your feet wet. But I don't know that this would be the best approach for somebody who's literally trying to be that of an investor. So as someone who's raised capital, what is your perspective for the best way to go about doing that?
Yeah, I'll tell you 2 different parts of this. Okay, the first part is I would, and I'll tell you what I'm getting ready to do, or I'm looking to do in the future, because this is something very, very. Oil and gas is really great the last 4 months of the year. Then you drill wells, raise capital, then you drill wells, all year long, get things started. But if we did something like what I'd like to do is start raising cash for. I went to Telluride the first time ever this year, right? July 4th. What a beautiful spot! Oh my goodness, yes, spot's great. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm looking at these, and I'm looking at the deal, and I'm like, you know what? I wonder how much these 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, because there's a lot of different. I don't say apartments, but
they're condos.
Little condos.
They're like mountain condos.
Condos next to the gondola that take you up to the.
Yes.
And I'm like, man,
were they
I wonder how much.
Ski out?
Do what?
Were they ski in, ski out?
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah, because you literally go from your condo to the lift.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you go up to the mountain, and Telluride's a little different than. Because you go up to the top of the mountain and you go on the other side, whatever.
Oh, I see.
But anyway, so I just kept thinking of this, going, you know what? I think I'm going to raise some money, and this is what I'm going to do. So this is what we're going to do first of the year. I really haven't made a lot of, but we have a great client base, and a client base that really trusts us, and I love that about them. And I really feel like that I can go out, and this is kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know exactly. I don't have all the answers yet, but this is just my entrepreneurial mind just thinking about, oh, hey, what should I do? So I found a guy that is in Telluride. He has like your lady that you were talking to about a minute ago. I've got a guy that is a really great realtor in Telluride. I played golf with him and the guy that we had on the show that got hit in the golf commercial guy, the best golf commercial ever. Guy that we had on the show. I can't remember his name right now, but he was on, and just an incredible guy. But the realtor there I played golf with, and we've talked a lot since. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm looking for condos next to the gondola. And he goes, they come available, but there's only so many that you need to look at. I can see them before they go on the market. And I'm like, okay, cool. So what I want to do is I'm going to put together a fund, and it's going to be a fund that we're going to raise capital. And let's say I raise $10 million or something. Let's say 10 million, and I find 10 units that are $1 million a piece, and I buy them all. I don't finance any of them, but I say, hey, we're going to finance them and put them in this raise 10 million, put 10 units in, and investors give me 10 million. We rent them out like you're doing, and if I could send back 100,000 a year, 5,000 a year, or 50,000. 50,000 a year would be like a 5 to 6% return. So give them a little bit of cash. If I could spin off some cash to the investors, that'll be great. Yeah. But then the appreciation of real estate is where the big money.
Especially in the mountains. I mean, especially in Colorado, it's no secret. And I'll give you one other piece of a little tidbit there. Because my family lives in Colorado. We've gone skiing and visited there over the past 17 years of my life. And I'll say that they're all outdated. And the ones that are newly renovated, that are well done, are completely booked out because everything looks like it's from like at least the 90s or earlier. And it's like, I don't know if you ever like visited a lake or anything like that, but those condos are always outdated. And so if you buy them, and I mean, it's just like little renovations, it's all cosmetic. It's nothing like in the bones or whatever. But if you do a little bit of that, that will go a long way. And man, those things will be booked out at a high dollar and for a long time.
Yeah, that's great. I look forward to that because I do want to do a Telluride. And then next year, we'll give it a year, and then next year I may refinance those properties. I may sell 2 or 3 of them, refinance some, and then raise some more equity in our next fund, and just build up a Telluride fund. And then I want to do a Cabo. I love Cabo. I think Cabo is a great place.
I've never been to Cabo, so I'm in on this Cabo idea.
You would love it. I mean, just love it. We stay at the Hacienda right there next to the marina. We've been staying there for a long time. But I do want some places there because they rent very well. They're great properties, but just do kind of the same thing. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about because number one, I really love, and I want to do some development type stuff. Oil and gas development kind of goes hand in hand. But also, I'm also thinking about, you and thinking about, because I know a lot of people that, like David Moore with Night Best, multifamily guy, right? He went to OU, he's from Trinity TCA here in Dallas, really great guy. Him and his wife, I love him. They also have a place in Cabo, but David, he went and got his MBA at SMU, and he met a lot of people at SMU, and then when he left, he raised money. He had this network of people, and he thought, okay, I'm gonna start raising money for multifamily, and so he would put together some multifamily units on a property, and he'd say, okay, here's multifamily, and I'm going to put this into I'm going to raise equity. So what he did was he would find an apartment complex that was in a great location, but like you said, no cosmetics, no whatever. So what he would do is, let's say he'd buy it for $6 million, just off the top of my head, just whatever. And so he could finance $5 million. He'd have to come up with $1 million down payment. Okay, so he would finance $5 million. He'd have to come up with $1 million down payment, but he'd raise $2 million because what he would do he would take that $1 million extra and go fix up the property. Make it to where he could raise the rents in the future and either refinance it or sell it, right? So the same type of deal is, instead of now he bought 100. He's probably more than that now, but he bought 100 different apartment complexes over like a 15-year period, and he's a junkie, and I love him, and he's a great guy. But anyway, he's bought 100 of them, 100 of different apartment complexes, and he sold half of them, and he still manages half. So he gets a management fee for managing all the properties. He also gets, if he gets a back end, so if he sells the properties, in the future, it's great for him, great for us, great for him. I mean, he really kills it in regards to making that property nicer. So he may buy it for $6 million, but he'll have $7 million into it because of raising the $2 million. That he may, do that on the property. It may be worth $8, $9, $10 million in the future, just because it's in a great location. And he's taken it and painted
It's all about location.
Fixed the roof. Yeah. He fixed the roof, and he did some cosmetic stuff and made it real nice. And people want to live there, so they'll pay, $800 instead of $500 a month to live there. And,
right.
So it's a really great thing for him and also his partner. So there's a lot of people like that. And there's a lot of things that I feel like that if you want to do it, I mean, at first you're going to need to get somewhat of a track record. That's what you're doing now, Jordan. You're showing,
building up slowly.
Yeah, getting that track record going, and then you can start with a property or two and buy it and fix it up and then sell it in the future. But I think that's great. It's a good learning experience. There's a lot of experience.
It's a lot. There's a lot of things that you don't think about. Like I was asked by somebody who was looking to stay. They were like, "Oh, do you have an Ethernet connector cord?" Which I was like, "I have a Wi-Fi extender. Who uses an Ethernet cord anymore?" But people have needs, and so that's something that you have to cater to. And then at the end of the day, like you said, now I might not be looking at principal and interest and all of those things. Now I am looking to subsidize my mortgage, but there's other things that come into account as well, right? The power bill, the water bill, the Wi-Fi bill, your overall insurance. Toilets. It does matter because you have to cover that back unit still. So
yeah, toilets. I mean,
toilet paper.
There's so many different things to go. Yeah.
I had somebody stay for 6 days, and they had 2 kids. They went through 9 rolls of toilet paper. How does that happen? Is that what happens when you have kids? Yeah. Is that why my parents were always crazy about the toilet paper?
Yeah. Well, yeah, too. And hopefully the toilets will flush after, 9. And if they're stopped up, you got to call somebody. Either you have to fix it yourself, or you have to be able to call people, and if they come in, obviously it's more expensive, and you have to cover that cost, in the future. So it's a really good learning experience. And what we're going to do in Telluride, just to kind of get back there a little bit, it's like, okay, so I'm gonna hire somebody to manage the property and rent it out, and so I've got to look at it from a standpoint of I may bring in $100,000 or $150,000 per unit per year. But I'm also not going to manage it, and I'm not going to. They're not going to call me for an Ethernet or whatever you just said.
Hey Jay, can I rent out that unit, please?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have an extension cord? No, I'm in Dallas. I don't really care about your extension cord. No, just kidding. You're right though. That's good.
Yeah.
But that's
I'm
good.
interested to see where we're at next year this time. Whenever we look back at this podcast and we're like, okay, this was November 1. We were looking at doing this, this, and this. And next year, looking back on this, I think that'll be really interesting because at the end of the day, what is the quest for entrepreneurship other than autonomy? It's seeking autonomy of your life so that you can choose to be present in the life that you created. And so I think, as we've always said, if we can just help one person and more the merrier, that's the goal of the show, is to help give those insights. And so showing the ups and downs and ins and outs of all of those things and the things you need to think about. Because whenever you're first getting started, there's a lot of things that you don't think about.
Oh, absolutely not, man. I agree. I bought a property one time. I bought it and it was like out in the middle of literally nowhere. It had 13.6 acres, and it was a house, and it was empty, and it was a drag because I couldn't rent it out, and it was so far away, and I had to go out and clean it up and rent it out. People wanted to look. I mean, it's like you learn so much.
Well, I bet you now with Airbnb, that could be like a little getaway location if you still have it. Make it super, cabin-esque and put it as a whole experience.
Yeah. And that's what I like about the show, and that's what I like about interviewing different people in different parts of the business. I do need to have David Moore on. I haven't thought about him in a while. Love him, but I need to have him on because I'm in his fund. I'm in his fund because he's raising money now for different properties. But we invested in that. Manny Ibarra's commercial real estate. I mean, there's another guy right there that does think about, but he's a commercial real estate guy instead of a multifamily guy. But there's different people like development guys. I love development guys. There's retail guys. I mean, there's a lot of different people that.
Well, and even Steven, whenever we were talking with him about the liquor stores and things like that, that's something that's also really attractive as well, because I'm like, oh, you only need X amount to get started in this. But it was the same as with you, Jay. It was like, oh, okay, because what is the other thing that we've always talked about? We've talked about mentors a lot. We've talked about the different approaches that you could take to entrepreneurship, but the other thing is goal casting. And so whenever you have a specific number and a specific goal that you're going to start doing the investment and the entrepreneurship, I think that that's really what, one, motivates you, and two, really gets you started on that track, is working towards that goal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, you got to have goals. That's one thing that I think has really helped me when I was in college, because I entered that ad that said, hey, do you want to make $600 a week or whatever, $300 a week or whatever? You'll make $200 a week. Yeah. This is 19.
Living large. I mean, look, inflation is a thing. So,
yeah. But anyway, $200 a week. And I was like, sure. But I started listening to Zig Ziglar, and I started listening to, and finding out motivation and finding out about goals. And Zig was obviously a big, you got to have goals, and just thinking about that. So that's something for you to think about too. Hey, how can I duplicate this? It's kind of like our oil and gas. Oil and gas is the same as real estate, which is the same as other businesses that you scale. You scale them because it's repeatable. And it's like, okay, how is this repeatable? How does
what's the formula here?
Yeah, exactly. How much money does it cost to drill the wells, and how much are you going to get in return, and what's the commodity price, and do those three work, and are those three profitable? It's like it's like looking at the deals in Telluride. I'll have to find somebody that is going to keep up with it, but it's like if I can find 10 units out there that are 2-bedroom, 2-bath, that generate $100,000 a year in income, then if I get 10 of those, I'll raise $10 million bucks. How does that work, and how can you use that to your advantage to springboard, but do it faster? Right. I mean, I think some of these guys that are a lot younger than I am by generations or decades, that are worth a ton of money because they figured it out sooner. So that's what I like.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are looking for more guests as always. So if you have anyone in mind, please drop a comment below, tag them. We would love to get in contact with them and talk about their entrepreneurship journey on this show, The Jay Young Show. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Jay. And I think that's I think that's all of my updates right now. And I love the Telluride idea in Colorado, very near and dear to my heart. Yeah. I was actually born in Denver. So it's not just Telluride. Steamboat Springs is another place, right outside of Loveland, ski area, not to be confused with Loveland. And I'm also loving the Cabo idea. So,
hey, we'll need to have a big party. Need to have an open house in Cabo. Cabo's great. It's an incredible place. It really is. But too, there's all different types of opportunities there. But I'm just thinking about places that we like to vacation, and Telluride is one that I really do like, and it's not as expensive as Aspen. Aspen,
Right.
they're $2 million
Oh my
condos
gosh.
instead of $1 million. But I looked at Aspen; they have kind of like the same type of. They have the same type, but it's like, I don't know. That's a big. Maybe
It's
that's a
way
big
more
boys
expensive.
game.
It's just the name. It's like buying something from a certain brand. You know, Lululemon. It's going to be more expensive than Target.
I do love them though, man. I think it's a great mining town. I love the old towns like that in Colorado.
The
I don't
old
see.
ghost houses and old cabins, the
Yeah.
ghost towns. It's really cool.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Well, hey, who is your mentor? And if you have a good mentor, let's put him on the show. Thomas Bates last week. I mean, Tommy was an incredible guy. He's made money with TX whiskey. Is that it? Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah. I've never drank it, but they say it's
Oh my gosh,
unbelievable.
you have to try it, Jay.
I'm not a drinker. I'm an alcoholic and I don't drink. But that's a different show. I know that if I did drink it, I'd drink the hell out of it. There's no question about that. I'd drink, and there wouldn't be any left. That's why I don't drink anymore. No, I didn't. You didn't know this, I guess, but I'm like a 30-year sober. Well, not yet.
Well, it's a movement now. I mean, there's actually, you know what, Jay? I have somebody who is starting their entrepreneur quest in the non-alcohol. You can't call it booze, but it's called boisson. Boisson, I think it's a French word. But I'll reach out to him and see if we can talk with him about his entrepreneurship journey, because that's something that I really stand behind as well, as like this sober movement, because I think that oftentimes we find ourselves in this whole escapism. We just try to escape from feeling stressed or feeling anything. And so I think that's a big movement now. But it's cool to talk with somebody who's, in that space and doing the entrepreneurship thing. So I'll reach out to him and see if he would talk with us next week or the week after.
That'd be great. I'd love that. I mean, half my year I drank, and then the other half I haven't. So, but I loved it, man. It was awesome, and it does. It really helps soothe you down or do.
But I
whatever.
didn't know that. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, in 2 months, I think in 2 months it'll be 30 years. I think if that's, I don't know. It was like December 31st, New Year's Eve, and it was New Year's Eve. Yeah, I drank the
On
last.
New Year's Eve, you said this is my
I drank
resolution,
on
and then
New
it
Year's
just
Eve I
stuck.
drank because on New Year's Day I quit and I haven't come back. And I think that was in 1995. That was in 1995. And if that's 30 years, then that's 30 years. So, but anyway.
There you go.
Hey, thank you so much, Jordan, for being here today.
Thank
You've
you.
been awesome. As always, I always enjoy our conversations. And I tell you what, I love the entrepreneurship that you're doing. And, hey, I'm going to help you. We're going to get there together. We're going to get there together. And I just think it's an incredible time for people that know what to do. And like I always say with all my people, I mean, we have meetings every Monday, Tuesday, but it's like Mondays I go through my one-on-ones with all my top executives and I say, hey, what were you going to do last week? What'd you do? What do you have to do this week? Type deal. And it's just a matter of building blocks, and it's like what blocks are needed in order to get to where you want to be, and what's that goal, and what do you have to do to get there? So, hey, I appreciate that, everybody. We got to wrap it up. Jordan, you got one last comment? You can't ask me if I was 18-year-old. What'd you tell your 18-year-old self today? But if it was, I'd learn from Jay and Jordan sooner. How about that?
There you go.
Learn sooner.
Maybe that should be the
Don't
tagline.
spend all your 20, 30 years, drinking and not being productive. Let's be productive. I love that. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for this episode of the Jay Young Show. Look forward to it, and we'll see you again here next week. Thank you.